Hi, everyone. Welcome back to SiouxperConline. It's Shane, your friendly guest coordinator, and I am pleased to be joined by Martheus Wade. Martheus was recommended to us by our very good friend and Ghostbuster and Ninja Turtle aficionado, Erik Burnham. Erik said, you have to get this guy in. Super talented. Your crowd's going to dig him. So we just, being who we are, we did what Erik said. We're his little minions down here in South Dakota. But no, welcome, Martheus, and thank you for joining us for SiouxperConline.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, man. Me and Erik, we go way back. Both of us started at Shooting Star Press a long time ago, like years ago. He was working on a comic strip called Nick Landom, and then I was working on Jetta Tales of Toshigawa like years ago, and that's how we met. And he started doing some things at IDW. I did a couple things at IDW, then I started doing my own thing. So, but we've kept in touch back and forth. We keep promising each other we're going to work on a project together, but we just haven't found that project. I know he had some things that he wanted to write, that he wanted to draw, but you know how things are in the comic industry. It's so busy at all times. Like you're either working or you're looking for work. So you don't have
either hustling or looking for the hustle.
Right. So you never had that downtime like you think, like I'm going to devote 2 months to writing a book or to drawing a book or something like that. So it's been difficult, but it's still on the plans. We still I'm still looking forward to working with him on some stuff.
And that's what's crazy, so Erik's in Minnesota, you're in Memphis. You guys can do a book together as easy as if you guys were sharing a cubicle now.
Right.
It's amazing. When the first SiouxperCon, and we were very limited budget, we're a nonprofit, so we invited just people who could drive. So Minneapolis and like Phil Hester from Iowa, we had Tom and stuff. But you can work at home. It doesn't matter where you live. You can live in Minneapolis, Des Moines, Memphis. You don't have to be at the Marvel bullpen or in the DC office anymore, right?
Right.
So is this your main gig? Is writing and creating your main gig, Martheus?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I do. I have my own business where I mix genres. So I do graphic design as well, but I do illustration for other people too. So I do graphic design and illustration and for corporations and stuff, as well as my own comic books and doing comic books for other people, like illustration for other people and things like that. So I had a job up until COVID hit. I had a job just like everybody else, right? But it was still artwork. I worked in baseball, so I still did artwork for baseball.
Wait, time out. I'm a huge baseball fan. Grew up baseball,
cool.
worked minor league baseball. So now I feel like now we got to get together. Now we got to have a little drink and talk baseball sometime. But were you in the minor league system? What were you doing? I was in
a AAA minor league system. I worked with the Memphis Redbirds. So and by way, like I did a lot of stuff working closely with the Cardinals. So that was fun, being able to be that close to the players, and being able, like, even now, I still talk to some of the players who are not in the Cardinal system anymore. Like I still talk to Xavier Scruggs, and I still follow Stephen Piscotty. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
All those guys. I still follow them on Instagram. I talk to them every once in a while. Kurt Heyer, I drew him. Me and him, we ended up vibing a lot because his favorite character is Batman, and my favorite character was Batman too. So I did this thing called, I pushed for it for Superhero Night at the ballpark, and we did it, and I got the okay to do jerseys and stuff, but I also got the okay to draw every player on the team as their favorite character.
Wow.
And I got to interview the players, and I asked Kurt, I was like, Kurt, what's your favorite character? And he was like, Batman. I love Batman. So I drew him as Batman, but I also drew a shot of him that he could personally take, with him. Because I think he was getting called up But I drew a picture of him taking off his cowl, and he was taking off Batman cowl, but he had the scruff of Kurt Hire. So he was like, "Oh man, we gotta keep in touch," So
yeah. That's awesome. So did they make trading cards out of those then for the stadium?
They didn't make they did posters. So actually, you know what? I got a couple of the posters too. I can send them to you if you want, man. I'll send you one of them. Send me your address, because then I'll mail it to you.
That'd be awesome, Martheus.
Yeah, but they did posters, and this was when Piscotty was going through Memphis by going up to
St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah. So I got a chance to draw him. He was like I made him Mr. Fantastic, because he had all these degrees and stuff, and stuff like that. So I made him like really smart, Mr. Fantastic. So he was like stretching all over the place. It was pretty cool. So I'll send it to you.
That's awesome. So you were talking about your favorite character being Batman. Now, I was reading. So you started writing your own endings to Batman comics. You were so into them that you were like, no, I got to put my own ending on this. This is the way I want it to be, not the way it was written.
Right.
So this is a recurring theme I hear, Martheus, as I talk to creators and artists, whether it be lined paper or a dollar store sketchbook or an expensive sketchbook that, you got from the art class or whatever. Everyone has sat down and, okay, I've been so inspired that I need to do this myself. Yeah. When did that start? Talk about that.
Man, it was young. The earliest recollection that I remember of having it was when Christopher Reeve's Superman came out.
Oh wow, so late 70s.
Yeah, so I was like super young, but I remember there was this cup that McDonald's released, and it had like Christopher Reeve, and it was different iterations of him. So it was one that was flying, it was one where he was carrying Lois Lane, there was one where he was standing there in Superman pose.
The pose.
Yeah. And I love that cup. Like seriously, like if it wasn't for deterioration, I'd probably end up having that cup still today. But I remember sitting down and just drawing meticulously each one of those poses over and over and over again in a sketchbook. Like I used to draw them and just sit there and like every day just sit there and be like, I love Christopher Reeve Superman, so I'm gonna draw that over and over and over again. And I drew it so much to where I wore the cup out. The cup was all ripped. My mom was like, it's time for you to get rid of this. You got a whole notebook of Christopher Reeve. You just throw it away. So I kept it. That was my first real remembrance of just sitting down and studying a character, just sitting down and just studying. My real first iteration of drawing or writing an ending came in, well, I don't want to say it, editing a Batman comic. Right? So I was little and I didn't understand at the time Crisis had just hit, like Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yeah. So everything changed.
Yeah, everything changed, and I didn't understand that. Like I was, because when I bought comics, I didn't buy them. I never saw them in succession. I saw them like in spinner racks, and you may get you might get issue 177 of Detective, and then you get issue 30 something of Batman, and you never know where those fit in, really.
Right. Yeah.
So every once in a while, I may get 2 issues back to back and be like, oh, okay, I can fill this in. I understand. But my young mind, I was like reading it one day, and it was post-Crisis. And I remember this was when Jason Todd went from being, in one issue, he went from being redhead, like he had red hair. And then, like, seriously, it seemed like to me, because I missed all of Crisis, it seemed like to me that he went from having red hair to black hair. And to me, my favorite Batman sidekick was Robin, and it was Dick Grayson Robin. And you couldn't tell me any different. So what I did was I opened up that book, and it looked like, I forgot what issue it was, but it looked like okay, I thought that the writer made a mistake because he didn't look like the Jason Todd. Yeah, that was introduced. He wasn't like the redhead. He was in Robin costume. The Jason Todd that was introduced wasn't in Robin's, the book that I had. He wasn't in Robin's costume. So now you have Jason Todd in Robin's costume looking like Dick Grayson. So I went through the entire comic book with an eraser and erased Jason Todd's name out and wrote in Dick Grayson. It just bothered me so much. I was like, no. And I wrote in Dick Grayson. No, do not call him Jason Todd. I was so angry, right? And then years later, I was like, I gotta find a book. I think I still have it somewhere around here where I just went crazy. I just went to town. Like I was just upset, you know? And then after that, I was like, you know, I kind of was like, oh, it'd be cool if this happened at the end. So I would write the endings of, oh, you know, it'd be cool if this happened, you know, making my own fanfics. And then off of that, I was like, well, what if I introduce this character into this, and how would they act with Batman? And what if I did this, or what if I did that? And then I started making my own stories after that. I started writing my own Batman stories.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. I gotta find that book though. That man, that takes me back. I can vividly remember how angry I was. I was like very like, for a little kid, I took that stuff seriously. You know what I mean? And but
I get it.
Yeah. I was seriously upset. I was like, how can you make this mistake? This is Dick Grayson. You have ruined the name of Batman right here.
Right. You know, and Martheus, you captured the beautiful insanity and the beautiful frustrations of comics books when you were talking about that. Now, wait a minute. He started as a redhead, then this crisis happened, then I pick up a book, and he looks like Dick Grayson, but he's actually Jason Todd. I mean, that's the magic of it, but also the frustration of it, because, you know, think about, you know, being 12 years old and walking and picking up your first book, and it's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And that's why I think we've seen such a push and a growth in creator owned and telling your own stories, to get out of 80 years of having to catch up with the story, to get out of 60 years of all that, you know? So yeah, you were already doing that, making your own, you know, right there with Batman. No, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'll make my own continuity.
See, right now they would call that on the internet, that would be a troll. You know what I mean? Right.
You're right. And anywhere else they called an editor.
Yeah. I was trolling the editorial without them even knowing I was doing it.
Yeah. So young man growing up, picking up comics wherever you could, you know, reading them, obviously enjoying them is something that you enjoyed, pretty passionate about because you're editing them. So where in that did you begin to think, I mean, there's a big difference between making your own in a sketchbook on the dining room table, around the kitchen table, right? It's a big difference between that and going, you know what? This might be a career. Maybe I can do art for a living. Maybe this can be something that can sustain me. So where did that start, Martheus?
Real early, actually, to tell you the truth. I was again in elementary school, and I'm drawing Christopher Reeve's Superman over and over again. And I'm at school, and I went to a Catholic school, and they were really sticklers about what you were supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And one of the things you weren't supposed to do was draw comics on your test pages. So I would get done with my tests early, and I would still have time, and you know, I just draw and doodle in the margins. Well, I ended up drawing and doodling in the margins, and I used to get bad grades. I would get the test right, but I got bad grades just because my you know, doodling and stuff, I messed the test up. So there was this one guy, it was one of my friends, he was from Ethiopia. Him and his family was from Ethiopia, and they just moved to Memphis. And he saw one of my tests, right? Because they passed the test back, and I had a big old F on it. And I was like, God, man, it's like, oh my gosh, I got an F. And then, I remember, man, what was his name, man? I forgot. I think his name was Dawit. So Dawit sat next to me, right? And he goes, you got F. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, but your drawing is good, like that. So I was like, oh, thanks, man. And he was like, I'll give you quarter. I'll give you quarter for that drawing. I was like, okay. So I gave him my F paper for a quarter, and I put it in my pocket. And I was just like, all right, cool. So like, seriously, Dawit and his family became like my first customers. Like he used to come and be like, hey, can you draw Spider-Man? And I'd be like, yeah. And I'd draw Spider-Man on some notebook paper. He's like, here's a quarter. And I'd be like, oh, cool. So he would give me money, and I would draw. And I was like, hey, maybe there's something to this, you know. A quarter for me was a lot of money as a kid, you know.
Right.
So I was like, ooh.
Dude, a quarter then was, half a comic book.
Yeah, because I could actually take that, have 2 quarters, and go down to like 7-Eleven or something at the time, and then buy a comic, you know. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I think that was the first time that I can vividly remember a monetary exchange, you know what I mean, like that. You know, it's a little monetary exchange, right?
You got the F, but your artwork is good.
You got the F. I was like, yeah. And he goes, hey, but that drawing is good. It's like, I remember that. I was like, thanks. I was mixed. I remember it because I remember having the mixed feeling of like, man, I got an F, but the drawing was good. You know? Right.
A little pride and shame at the same time. Like, oh, bad grade. Great drawing. Yeah. So this has kind of been, when they ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? This has kind of been yours right from the start.
Yeah. I haven't ever thought about anything else that I might want to be. Like, I think there might have been a time in there where I was like, there was a time in there where I was like, well, I'm gonna act. You know what I mean? I like acting, and I still did. I did commercials. I did some commercials and stuff. But I mean, it's never been serious. Like, I've never taken it to where I'm like it's a serious thing. Like art has always been serious. Like, I've always been serious. Like, nothing has ever come between me and art. Like, I've never really there's nothing I've ever taken as seriously as that. Like, even when it came down to like I said, all the way back to like the Christopher Reeve and drawing and getting things right and like trying to be the best and trying to portray exactly what I'm trying to portray and the emotion. Like, I've never taken, art has always been that serious to me. It's always been that, and I don't think that there's ever been anything else that I could have been. I mean, people can be anything they want to be, right? But I don't think that everyone has the love to put the time in to be some of the things that they currently are. Like, I mean, you can tell the difference between a person who is a doctor and they just really from wanting to be a doctor. Like, they live, breathe, heart and soul being a doctor, versus a person who's a doctor and they're just in it for the money. They're not in it because they love it,
Find what you love. Right. Find your passion. Find what you love. And if you can turn that into a career, man, that's the best of both worlds, man.
Right.
That's when you drop down on your knees and thank the Lord, man. I'm doing something that I love every day of my life.
Right.
And I get paid for it. I get to do art. I get to create. I get to, get a quarter for my F.
Man, I gotta find. You know what? For real, I gotta find Dawit. I'm gonna see if I can find him and be like, hey, man, the internet is out there. Right. He's still, I think his family was still in Memphis when I last checked where he was, but I'm gonna check and see if I can find Dawit, man.
see what he'll give me for money now.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, man.
Hey, dog, I got a whole book now.
Come get my book, you know. You already said my drawing was good.
Yeah. So this passion of yours led to school, and then something pretty life-changing and amazing happened, didn't it, Martheus?
Yeah.
You got to be friends with a young lady that, you know, kind of influenced your life in a lot of ways, didn't she?
Yeah. A little, sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Yeah, she ain't in hearing range, is she?
No. She's not in his pants. It's mine. No, but yeah. I got married, man, and well, first of all, we met in college. When I got to college, man, and we were in creative writing class together, and I didn't know that she was at the time she was in photography class. She was a photography major, and I was a graphic design major. And she I liked her stories when she was reading, because we had to read aloud. I liked her stories because her stories were like a little bit like mine. They were fanciful. They were things like you could actually see this happening in a fantastic comic book world. You know what I'm saying? Right. Everybody else was more grounded. Ours were more like out there. Like I had things about ninjas jumping into alleyways and things like that. Right. And you could see the people like that were in the comics. They're looking around like, what? I don't get it. You know what I mean? Right. Why would there be a ninja in Memphis? Right. And Janet's looking at me, and she's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So, you know, we got close off of that, and we became friends, and we hung out, and we just started doing, doing comics together, essentially. And me, her, and my best friend, Kevin Williams, we all went to the same college. You know, we went to the University of Memphis, and me and Kevin we found out about each other because we sat across from each other in 2D design class, and me and him knew we were going to be friends because our teacher, he spoke broken English, and he was from where is he from? Oh man, I think it was like Taiwan, but his favorite word to say was acrylic paint, but he didn't say acrylic paint. He left out the acrylic part, and he would say paint. So it was like a lot of people had to translate what he was saying. Like we couldn't understand. He was like, he was struggling. He was like, you take a brush, and we were like, brush. And we wrote down brush, and he goes, and he was thinking, he goes, you take a red. He was like, red. Which one? Because we had like red. Yeah, we had watercolor, we had markers, we had all this stuff. He goes, you take acrylic paint, and we were like, what? He said, acrylic paint. And he got mad, right? He goes, acrylic paint. And we're like, oh yeah. He said acrylic paint, y'all. He said acrylic paint. And Kevin was like, yeah, that's right. So after that, we were vibing because me and him, we were the translators. We were the guys who were like, this is what he's saying, do this, you know. And after a while, you know, he would just tell us. The teacher would just tell us, and we would tell everybody else, you know. So me and him got really cool like that. And then all three of us, man, we just vibe really well. And she changed my stories around a lot. You know what I mean? They became a lot more grounded. You know what I mean? When you start to see somebody, at the time we were friends, but when you start to see somebody as just as more than friends, you start to kind of realize little intricacies about, you know, just being a person. You know what I mean? And that fed into my artwork. Yeah. So when was the big moment when you showed her your toys? Because that's the make or break moment, right? Man, that was immediately. I'm not like, I'm not trying. I'm not gonna hide it. You
That's
can't
right.
hide it. Look at that.
That's right. That's awesome.
What's in that room? Oh, you don't want to go in that room. And be like, oh, he got a dead body in there. I'd rather them see the toys. You know, I'd rather, you know, especially in this modern age, you rather them see the toys than opposed to the dealer. You know,
you don't want to leave it here. You don't want to leave it up there wandering. Nah,
man,
what you got in there? We got dead body. Yeah. So,
but she saw it right off the bat. She was good with that right off the bat.
That's amazing. So she's starting to kind of look at your stories. You guys are starting to collaborate. What was the first big story you two did together?
It was probably Jetta Tells a Toshigawa book. And that was the book that I wrote and worked on the longest time. So I had been working on my last project in college was called Your Senior Problem, and it was my senior problem was to design advertising and merchandise for my comic book. So in my comic book company. So I had to come up with all this paraphernalia and all this kind of stuff. And that was the first actual book that I came out with. She was a big part of that because at the time, she did a lot of the editing of the book. And a lot of the book looked really different then. It was a lot of free hanging text, a lot of flowing text. It looked more like, you remember Kabuki?
David Mack.
Yeah. I was really inspired by Kabuki, and I loved his design choices and stuff like that. So the Jetta books looked a lot like that. And over time, as we stayed together and stuff, they started being a little bit more in line with what traditional comic books were. I think Jetta Tells of Toshigawa, probably the one that we came out with for Shooting Star Press was the first time that we actually collaborated on the book. Cause I remember that's the first time that we swapped pencil and ink stories. You know what I mean? I would pencil, she would ink, and then do graphic design and stuff on top of that. So that was the first one.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sweet. So where did this love of anime and manga and martial arts and the Eastern world that plays throughout your work pretty prevalently, where did that come from? When did that start, Martheus?
I've been in martial arts since I was about 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the chubby dude in school that used to get picked on. So my mom was like, "You need to do something different, dude." So she put me in Taekwondo, and I've been in it ever since. I just love doing it. And then I was always an anime fan. Like I grew up with I grew up with Kung Fu theater on Sunday mornings. And then I took that into my Speed Racer. I love Speed Racer, and it was something about the speed lines, the way that they talk, the snappy dialogue, the action, the fact that Speed Racer you didn't see this anywhere. Speed Racer would take a machine gun out of the back of the Mach 5 and start start shooting people. And I was like, holy cow. At the time, G.I. Joe, you would shoot somebody and they were, nobody gets killed. Man, Speed Racer would take some people out, and he was just a NASCAR racer. So I was like, man, I love Speed Racer. I loved, and then from Speed Racer, I went into like other anime, like I found at the time it was Dragon Ball. So I mean, it was just a slippery slope after that. I just went straight full force into it, and it just worked out. I mean, all of that with the martial arts and background that I had and the love for that and stuff like that, it just fed into my what I was going to do in my artwork too.
Yeah, I think that, but I think that that comes out, doesn't it? You know, if if I love something, I'm going to invest time in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to inspire me even more. Where it's like, here, I'd like you to draw this character that you have no interest in, and I have no doubt, Martheus, you could do that and do that well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the same, is it?
Right.
Because this
It's
is
not.
like, this is, I can make my own machine gun on the back. I can make my own character jumping out of the sky and crack in the
Right.
earth. And look, I can do what I enjoy and what I love.
Right. Right. And that's exactly why I like I get the question that I get a lot is, why haven't you jumped into mainstream? You know what I mean? Why haven't you done this over here or approached this? And it's like, for a time I have, you know, it's a hard road to be able to do, because it's not as easy as people think. You know what I mean? It's like, you can be able to draw well, you know, but the one thing that I kept getting from people, and I didn't understand it at the time, is that we like I got it from a couple of different editors. And one of them was from Marvel. Sorry, I think
No,
okay, I'm
right.
back.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're there.
one of them is from Marvel, and then one of them was from DC. And the one from Marvel, they both said the same thing. They were like, your artwork is on par to be able to do things, but we would have to have a specific. This is back before the influence of manga and stuff like that into Americanized artwork. So they were like, we would have to have a specific project for you to do for your stuff to fit what we do, because it just doesn't look like what we put out. You know what I mean? And at the time I was kind of like, oh man, I was bummed. I was really bummed because, you know, like I said, my favorite character is Batman. But now I kind of look at that, you know, I look back at that and be like, oh man, you know, it was just that my influences weren't strictly superhero comics, you know, or DC comics. You know, I wasn't emulating them. I was emulating, you know, Shiro Masamune, you know what I mean? Stuff like that, you know. So yeah, you know, or Akira Toriyama, that was a big influence. So, you know what I mean? You know, I look at that now and that's my thing. So it's always been ingrained in me, I think.
Yeah. And until like Joe Mad and Humberto Ramos and Chris Bocciolo, until those guys really broke through, it was very fringe. You didn't see that style in mainstream at all. And then you had all of a sudden a whole generation of artists coming up that were mimicking their style or influenced by their style. I don't want to say mimicking, that's selling it short, but influenced enough that they were drawing like that, you know, that they found that style. So you were just ahead of the curve, buddy.
I don't want to say that, but yeah, I was.
Yeah. So the big break, the big story that you invested in was, which came first? Was Shinobi came second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Shinobi came second. So the first one was Catan, am I right? What is?
Yeah. It was go ahead.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to come to that story, to create that story, to get it out? And was it strictly convention and nose to the grindstone, and I gotta push this book from every table I'm at every convention? Talk about your creator process and how self-publishing has worked for you.
Yeah, it was it pretty much that, you know what I mean? It's you know, I self-published you know, Jedi Tales of Toshigawa, and then after that it was Tour of Gun Angel, and then after that it was Shinobi Ninja Princess. So it's self-publishing is kind of tough. It's a lot easier now than it was back when I started, but it was essentially that, just getting the books printed, going to each con, making sure that you talk to as many people as you possibly can, making sure that the readers are able to find you later on once you leave that convention, and then go to the next one. I mean, you know, that's pretty much it. You know, I was fortunate enough to be able to, you know, talk to some people and have some of my friends, like Mike Norton. Me and Mike Norton went
yeah.
we went to University of Memphis together too. So some of my friends, you know, Mike, he went off and he did some bang up stuff. So when he was doing some things, he'd be like, "Hey man, go talk to this guy," and I'd be like, "Okay, cool," and I would take my stuff and go talk to whoever he told me to, and that dude would he would be like, "Yeah, I could use you on this project," and he would put me onto another project, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, well why don't you go talk to this guy?" And I'd be like, "Okay, cool," and I'll take my portfolio and do that. And all the while I'm meeting these people, I'm putting, you know, Jetta Tales of Toshigawa in their hands and saying, "This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing." So I mean, and it's like that still now. I mean, that's exactly how, you know, it runs. You know what I mean? You talk to the next person, you put your stuff in their hands, and then they give you a contact or they give you an idea of what you need to do next, and you just keep rolling. You know, even with Shinobi Ninja Princess, you know, we're in bookstores and stuff now, like
Sure.
you know, you can get it at Barnes & Noble and stuff like, but it's the same exact thing. You know,
You're in Barnes & Noble, you're on Amazon. So let's talk about Shinobi. This was a change in tone, wasn't it? This was I'm a father now.
Yeah.
And this is a big change. So
right.
I interviewed Judd Winnick last night, and he was talking about his boy coming to him and says, "Dad, can I read your Batman?" He's like, "You're 10, you ain't reading Under the Red Hood." Right. And he's like, "Can I read this one?" He's like, "You ain't reading Barry Ween." And he's like, "Can I read this one?" "You ain't reading Exile." So he's like, "Damn it." Right. So I have to go to somebody else's library. You know, here I am, a writer and creator, and he said I had to hand him Jeff Smith Bone because that's the only thing I had that was age appropriate. And so this too, this change, this parenting, what fatherhood brings out in us is I want to share these stories. Like, I love it. My boy is 12, right? And I can go, "Oh, here's Ultimate Spider-Man," and he'll read that, and he'll go, "Oh, Dad, here's Amulet. You'll love that." Right? Because they're so accessible. So you kind of went to a whole new world, prequel to Jetta.
Yeah.
Right.
I always knew where she came from. I always had the story in my head of what was going to happen. I just never thought I was going to act on it in any kind of way. And in some of the Jetta books, you can see flashbacks to actual stuff that I'm drawing right now, which is kind of cool. You know what I mean?
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. So like, I can reference my own material, you know, and change it up to this new style that I'm doing. But I never thought I was gonna be able to devote much time to it at all. You know what I mean? So what I ended up doing was I was like, I'm going to when Anakin was born, it you know, with any kind of like parent, the unknown is stressful. You know, so we were going through, you know, stressful times. So you know, on the way home from work, you know, at the time I would be like writing these stories, and there will be younger Jetta stories. There will be just essentially where she came from. And at first it was just going to be a web comic that I was going to put out. I wrote it, and then I would share it with Janet, and she would laugh about it, and we would have fun. And I was like, man, this is the most fun we have had doing comics in a long time, because Jetta had become so dark in tone that it wasn't too fun anymore. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, oh man, you know, I can't, you know, if I was to give this to a kid, you know, I was starting to realize if I gave this to a kid, man, and he's going to be able to read, I'm not going to be able to let him read this for a long time. So I took those stories, those early stories, and I was just like, man, let's put a little bit lighter tone. Let's have fun again. You know what I mean? I want him to have the same experience I had when I was growing up. When I was watching Speed Racer and he jumped out the back of the car with the machine gun. I want him to have that same whoa, you know, fun, you know, Saturday morning cartoon. Let's sit down and watch cartoons all morning and eat cereal. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I want them to have that fun, because it's lost for kids sometimes today, because they got to be faced with so much, you know, adult situations. It's sad, you know?
That's right.
So I was like, I went to one of my friends. He had a publishing company. He worked for a publishing company. And I was like, hey man, what do you think about this? And he really liked it. And he took it to his friend, he took it to the editor-in-chief of the company, and they wanted to sign us. So they signed us up, and we started doing books ever since then. You know what I mean? You know, hopefully we're doing some bigger and better things. I'm working on some stuff now that we could hopefully be lucrative, you know?
Right. So this is will there be more? So will you continue on this path, or is not? We've told the early, we've told the middle. Is there in the future maybe the end of Jetta's Tale?
There is. But the problem now is that I'm having so much fun with the beginning that I don't know how. I don't know if I ever get to the end. That's the problem.
Well, that's okay. That's not a bad problem to have.
Yeah. I mean, it's super fun. You know what I mean? The thing that I like about it is that it shows a bridging of this gap. You know what I mean? And personally, for me, it shows that, you know, it shows growth in my character, but it also shows growth in the main character as well of the book. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it shows that over time how a person's creativity can change. Like for me, I can look back at all these books, like whether it's Jetta, Tales of Toshikawa, or Shinobi Ninja Princess, and I can map out how I actually felt, what I was doing, who I actually was through each one of these books. And people don't get a chance to really look back at their life in a very visual fashion like that. You know what I mean? I mean, that's to me, that's really special. I think I take more happiness and being able to see this progression, you know, than anything. You know what I mean? It's more gratifying to be able to see this artistic progression than anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see the influences, you know, as well. Like going from Jetta, where I felt like I had to try and put every single rivet of her costume and every single thread of her costume into the drawing, as opposed to now just letting the drawing speak for itself. Like being more confident in the fact that I'm gonna let this line just lay there. You know what I mean? Just let that line just stay there. You know, I'm not erasing it. I'm not doing anything. Just let it stay, you know? And that just comes from just being more comfortable with yourself, being more comfortable with your surroundings, being more comfortable with your artwork, and, you know, with your life, you know?
And there's some confidence and there's growth, you know, and that's amazing. You can see where you were at, the emotion you were feeling. It's almost therapeutic, right? I'm going to sit down, I'm going to work this out on the page, and oh shit, that was dark.
Yeah.
That's I must have been in a bad mood that day, and then the visual cue is going to trigger your mind and go, oh yeah, that's what was going on. That's what was going on. That's pretty amazing.
It is.
Yeah. Martheus, do you guys do everything in house? Like, okay, so you're penciling, and then are you doing the inks, or is Janet doing the inks? Who's coming in and doing the ink? And then
we do everything in house. You know, usually what happens is that I write it, and I'm writing it out, and then I give the writing of the whole story arc, essentially. Like I don't like writing issue to issue. A lot of times I write the whole story arc.
Sure.
And then I break it into issues as I go. And then I give the story arc to Janet, and then she reads it and stuff like that. And then she makes her edits, and then I give it back. I get it back, and then I make my edits again based off of what she said. And then that's when I start doing artwork, and I'll do the artwork, laying it out and stuff like that. And then I'll give the artwork and the script back to her. Sometimes now, like it depends. Like recently, because I've been working mostly digital, I've been doing pencil and ink myself. Usually
At the
what
same
happens
time?
is,
Yeah.
yeah, usually what happens is that I'll do pencil and then I'll give it to her to do the inks. But I've been doing pencil and ink, so I've been giving her the finished pencil and ink artwork. I'll give it to her, and then she'll digitally paint it, and then and she'll put the words to it, give it, and then read through it, do her edits while she's putting the words to it, give it back to me, and then I'll do my once over, and then I'll give it to Kevin, and then Kevin, he does his overall edit. He'll look at the whole thing and just say, you need to take this. This is not the same red as this over here. It needs to change. Then I'll do those, and then we send that to print.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
What are you using? Are you using a Surface? What are you drawing on? What are you using for your digital drawing?
It's an iPad Pro.
Okay.
iPad Pro with the Apple Pen. And I fell in love with it. You know what I mean? I thought it was really cool. And it felt the most, what I was looking for, it felt the most to me like pencil to paper. You know what I mean? The line weights and the control of it felt good. So I gravitated that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've done a couple of drawing sessions with my Surface sitting in up at SpringCon up in Minneapolis, then at our own SiouxperCon, and using the pen on my Surface, and there is a little bit of a lag, but it's pretty amazing how quickly we've gotten to look at what we can do here. Different weight, different thickness, different tone, shade. It's pretty amazing, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was blown away when one of my friends showed me his iPad Pro and the Apple Pen. I was like, dude, that's badass, man. I'm gonna have to go back and try and look at it. And my whole thing was I only did cover artwork and pinup artwork for a long time in the iPad. I wasn't comfortable with doing panel to panel work because I was like, I don't know, you know what I mean? I'm used to the big page, you know what I mean? But then I started doing it as I started doing more of it and stuff like that, and being able to zoom in and and stuff. I was like, okay, well, you know, I can get with this. So I started popping out, and I saw the speed in which I was able to get finished artwork over to a client or over to Janet. Man, I was like, man, there's nothing that beats it. You know what I mean? I don't have to do as much cleanup on my end and things like that. And especially if it's not a page that I think that I can. Now it'll be different if I'm doing a Batman page from DC. Or a Batman book from DC, you better believe that 50% of that book is probably going to be, you know, pencil and ink, you know, traditional, because you could sell it. You know what I mean? It's that page, you know,
it's worth money.
Right. It's going to be real money. But if I'm doing something like where I know that the value of the individual original piece is not going to be as much or as high, you know what I mean?
Then it's print. Then you can just make as many prints as you want, right?
Yeah, I just make prints as I go. You know what I mean? And just bam, 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 knock it out. You know?
Yeah. So, Martheus, one thing that I really appreciate, and I kind of want to talk to you about this as we begin to wrap up. You know, SiouxperCon's a nonprofit, and we started it that way. There's a million for-profit comic book conventions out there, and I was really touched as I was reading the work that you and Janet do in the community and giving back. You know, I think that's so important, that we stand up and show people, you know, this isn't what you're seeing isn't real, man. I mean, it is, right?
Right.
But there's people we're going to give back. We're going to raise up instead of tear down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you talk about some of what you're doing in Memphis, man?
And right now, man, we're trying to launch this Hero Empowerment Center. So what we did was we teamed with the Heal the Hood Foundation, and that's run by my friend Liddell Beeman. And what we did is that me and him partnered together, and we did this campaign about heroes can come in all colors. We did a billboard campaign that just ended, but we also next year we're breaking ground on a Hero Empowerment Center. and it's all centered around. It's a big entertainment center, and for the youth, and it's all centered around our comic book characters. So it's centered around Shinobi Ninja Princess. It's centered around me and him have a comic book that was going in the Memphis City school system called Evolution. And the team of Evolution is going to be there. Jetta Tezo Toshigawa is going to be there. Our mall production studio, me and Janet's studio, is actually going to be housed there. So there's
very cool.
Yeah. We're going to be doing comic book classes for the youth. So we're bringing back the comic studio. We're going to be doing comic book classes there. We're going to be doing graphic design classes as well, and giving kids opportunities to actually come in and help us work on comic books that'll be printed out. So they'll give them a portfolio. It gives them job options as well. There is going to be there in the back. We've already got I'll send it to you so you can put it in the link too. There's a video. There's a video on YouTube of the architectural rendering. So that's finishing up right now, actually. In the back of the space, there's a warehouse back there that's going to house cameras. And it's going to be kind of like a studio back there in the back, so you could go and actually film back there. So we've already partnered with a number of people that are actually going to be helping us train kids to be able to film, to use camera equipment, be able to film digitally, be able to edit. They're going to be working with me on storyboarding as well. Music production is going to be there. There's a small little studio that's going to be there for music production with band rooms and stuff, so kids can be able to play their music, play their instruments and stuff. There's a lot that's going to be offered at this building, and that's the huge project that we're behind right now. We're actually raising money. We did good. We've been doing pretty good raising some money too. The city is pitching in. We've got the land already. It's pretty much a done deal. We just got to break ground. So that's the big thing. I'm really trying to be able to empower kids again. I think we got away from that.
We did. You're right.
Yeah, with the big money. Money tends to draw everybody's attention, you know what I mean? And it's good. Money is great, but if you don't have money with intent behind it, it starts to seep into a negative direction. And I've seen some things happen, you know what I mean? And my friend Liddell, who started the Heal the Hood Foundation, he used to work with inner city youth. He still does, and he's seen so many kids get killed. Following negative trends, trying to be able to keep kids safe on the internet, trying to be able to keep kids safe in this new climate of, we don't know if you're going to go back to school right now. We don't know, that it's just so many things to be able to keep kids in a positive light. And now's the time we need to invest back into our kids. We need to invest back into our people and invest back into the heart of people, even not just kids, even working people that are working to keep the lights on, people who are working to just keep the city up and running. You know what I mean? You need to be able to give them hope. And this is what this building is going to do. So, yeah.
Wow. That's one of the most, thank you. I mean, I'm not even there, and thank you, because you're right. We got away from, you can even relate this to the comic book industry. We forgot they were writing dark comics for people my age, right?
Right.
They forgot that we have to make them accessible to kids. We have to make them enjoyable for kids. We have to give them love. We have to help them escape from all these things. Mm-hmm. And for you guys to invest in this, we need to reinvest in our children. We need to give hope. At the end of it, there has to be hope.
Like a lot of people that they are, they'll know that like for instance, I loved Zack Snyder's Superman, Batman. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was a different take, and the reason why was just because, you know, it was a different voice than what Marvel was doing, and I just like different voices. Yeah. But I do agree, though. While I do like those movies, I still think there needs to be a choice. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that those voices shouldn't be said, or that darkness shouldn't be out there, or that story shouldn't be told. It should be told, but there needs to be a balance. That's the only thing. There, you know, I see
it can't all be Watchmen and Dark Knight.
Right.
Those are beautiful stories. Beautiful. They changed the industry, but everything can't be that afterwards.
Exactly. You know, I think, I think that we, especially as comic book, you know, readers, and, you know, everybody's going to be an individual critic, and they're going to like things that they like. But I think that we look at it too much as a lens, especially in fandom, as a lens of, I don't like it, and this is why you shouldn't, as opposed to being like, as opposed to being like, it's not my cup of tea, but I'm not saying it couldn't be said. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like I love being able to, I love a serious comic book. A comic book is just where you read it and you're just like, oh man, that hit me right here. Like, I love that. But I also love a comic book where it's just straight fun. You know what I mean? Where it makes no sense whatsoever. I would pick, you know, like I picked up a comic book in, I can't remember who it was about, but it was just everything. It was every single trope in a video game beat 'em up. Like everything from hitting something and hitting a trash can, and the trash can falls over and there's a cooked turkey in it, and you eat the cooked turkey, you know what I mean? And you get stronger. It was a comic, and I was like having a ball. Now, does that make sense in real life? No, it doesn't. But I was having fun, you know what I mean? And I think we need to just get back to that, you know?
Yeah. In comics, in life, in our own lives too, you know, and by living that way, and we inspire others, right? As fathers, as neighbors, as people of this country, as people of this world, just living with joy and living with hope and living with inspiration will lift up others.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's, you know, the easiest thing in the world, man, is for somebody to do, and to brighten somebody else's day, is just to walk up and say, hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? Especially like with kids, you know, if a guy came up to another person, you know, female, male, or whatnot, in school, and they weren't expecting it, and he just came up and said, what's going on? And he never talked to you ever, right? That would mean the world to the person that they just spoke to, because you never said anything to them ever, but you were acknowledged. You know what I mean? And that's all it takes. You know, your voice is heard. It needs to be heard. Your voice, your existence means something on this earth. You know. Amen,
brother. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll let you go, man, and I appreciate you. Hey, everyone, MAW Productions, MAW Productions. We'll have a link up for you to follow, but please find the work, look at the work, absorb the work, you know, and get to the dark side with him, and then jump back into the light. And hey, we're gonna have you our way. We're gonna have you come out to the Midwest and hang out with Erik, and come out for a in-person convention, Martheus.
Dude, I would love to. Just give me a yell. Let me know when and there.
I will for sure. Thank you so much. Behave and be safe.
I will. You too, man.
All right, brother. All right. Thank you.